The offseason in San Francisco 49ers territory always carries a different kind of energy. It's quieter without the weekly grind of football, but underneath that silence is constant movement, constant recalibration, and a front office trying to reshape a roster that clearly didn't meet expectations last season. And when you step back and look at everything happening right now, you start to realize this isn't just a routine offseason. This is a recalibration year, one where every decision feels like it's being made with urgency and purpose. The absence of football on a Monday like this only amplifies the questions. Where is this team headed? Are they reloading for another run, or quietly reshaping their identity? Because when you examine the roster moves, the contract structures, and even the speculation around the draft, it becomes clear that this version of the 49ers is trying to walk a very fine line between contending now and fixing structural issues that were exposed in a disappointing campaign. And that brings us straight into one of the most fascinating elements of this offseason, the draft philosophy. There's already buzz about potential playmakers falling into San Francisco's lap, and one name in particular stands out in mock draft discussions: Sadiq, an explosive offensive weapon who could inject immediate juice into this offense. The debate isn't just about talent, it's about necessity. Do the 49ers double down on weapons, or do they address foundational needs like offensive line protection? Because the options on the table are telling. Prospects like Omar Cooper Jr., Casey Concepcion, and Denzel Boston represent different flavors of receiving threats, while offensive tackles like Blake Miller or Max Ihenekor would signal a commitment to protecting the quarterback and stabilizing the trenches. The fact that all these paths feel equally plausible tells you everything about the current state of the roster. There are no easy answers, but the idea that adding another explosive playmaker is a luxury move might be outdated thinking. In today's NFL, especially in a system like San Francisco's, speed and versatility are not optional, they're essential. And if this offense is going to evolve, especially after inconsistencies last season, injecting dynamic talent could be less about excitement and more about survival. At the same time, the 49ers are making quieter moves that could end up being just as important. Bringing back pass rusher Sam Okwuegbunam on a $2.3 million deal doesn't grab headlines, but it speaks to something deeper: continuity and depth. Over the past 2 seasons, Okwuegbunam has carved out a role through steady improvement, appearing in 31 games and starting 15 of them. That's not just a fringe player. That's someone who understands the system and can contribute meaningful snaps. And when you consider the team's need for defensive end depth, this move starts to look less like a minor transaction and more like smart roster management. The guarantees in his contract don't lock him into a roster spot, but they do indicate that the team values what he brings. In a league where pass rush depth can make or break a defense, having a player like Okwuegbunam in the rotation could quietly stabilize a unit that needs consistency. Now zoom out, and the bigger picture starts to form when you evaluate the 49ers' free agency class as a whole. This isn't just about adding names, it's about finding value. And few teams have leaned into that philosophy as aggressively as San Francisco this offseason. The headline additions like Mike Evans and Osa Odighizuwa are clearly designed to move the needle. These are players expected to produce immediately and elevate the performance of those around them. But the real intrigue lies in the mid-tier signings, the ones that don't dominate headlines but could end up defining the season. Take Christian Kirk, for example. On paper, a 1-year deal worth under $3 million feels almost absurd for a player who once commanded a $72 million contract. But that's exactly the kind of calculated risk that can transform a roster. Kirk's recent production has dipped, and injuries are a concern, but the underlying metrics suggest there's still something there. If he returns even close to his career averages, this could be one of the biggest steals in the entire league. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. Because value isn't just about performance, it's about expectation versus cost. If Kirk sees 50 or more targets in this offense, the odds are strong that he outperforms his Houston numbers, where he posted a career-low efficiency. A slight regression to the mean could make him a critical piece in the passing game, especially in a system that thrives on timing and yards after the catch. Right in the middle of all this, there's a deeper question you have to ask yourself as a fan. Are the 49ers quietly building one of the smartest offseason rosters in the NFL? If you're seeing what's unfolding, Now is the moment to hit subscribe and stay locked in, because this team is setting up for a season that could surprise a lot of people. Then there's Dre Greenlaw, and his return might be even more significant than any external signing. The 49ers' struggles against the run last season were glaring. Finishing near the bottom of the league in rushing success rate isn't just a defensive line issue, it's a second-level problem. And that's exactly where Greenlaw makes his impact. His chemistry with Fred Warner has always been a defining feature of this defense. When Greenlaw is on the field, Warner plays faster, more instinctively. It's a ripple effect that elevates the entire unit. And considering Warner is coming off an injury-shortened season, reuniting these two could be the key to restoring the defense's identity. The structure of Greenlaw's contract also reveals how the front office is thinking. By spreading out the cap hit with void years, they've managed to bring back a critical piece without compromising future flexibility. It's a calculated gamble, but one that aligns perfectly with a team trying to compete now while managing long-term constraints. On the offensive line, the addition of Robert Jones introduces another layer of intrigue. This isn't a flashy move, but it might be one of the most important. Jones brings 30 career starts, including a full season as a starter, and his performance metrics suggest he could be a legitimate upgrade at left guard, a position that has been a weak point. What stands out about Jones isn't just his experience, but his efficiency. A blown block rate under 3% is significant, especially when compared to the struggles the 49ers had at that position last season. Add in his athletic profile, and you're looking at a player who fits the system both physically and technically. And now, suddenly, there's competition. Jones versus Brett Toth for the starting left guard spot isn't just a depth battle. It's a sign that the 49ers are serious about raising the floor of their offensive line. That kind of internal competition can elevate an entire unit. Meanwhile, special teams remains an open question, particularly in the return game. With last year's primary returners no longer in the picture, the 49ers are entering 2026 with uncertainty and opportunity. Players like Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and Christian Kirk all bring some level of return experience, but none are proven at the NFL level in that role. Cowing, in particular, stands out as a potential answer. His rookie season showed flashes, especially as a punt returner, where he handled 28 returns with solid efficiency. He might not be a household name yet, but in a league where field position can swing games, finding a reliable returner is more important than ever. The lack of established options could also influence draft strategy. Adding a rookie with return ability would not only address special teams needs, but also provide additional depth at skill positions. It's another example of how interconnected every decision becomes during the offseason. And that's really the story of this 49ers team right now. Every move, from blockbuster signings to low-cost depth additions, is part of a larger puzzle. They're not just trying to add talent. They're trying to fix specific problems while maintaining the core identity that made them contenders in the first place. But make no mistake, this is a pivotal moment. The margin for error is shrinking, and the NFC landscape isn't getting any easier. The success of this offseason won't be judged by headlines. It will be judged by how these pieces come together when the season begins. So as you look at this roster, ask yourself, is this the foundation of another deep playoff run, or a transitional phase disguised as contention? Because the answer to that question will define the next chapter of 49ers football. And if you want to stay ahead of every move, every roster battle, and every strategic shift, make sure you subscribe right now, because this story is just getting started and you don't want to miss what comes next.